Shalom lekulam, and we are in Parashat Terumah. According to Baal Sulam, the Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, the author of the Zohar Sulam, uh, every year the time of the ShOVaVIM is extending for 8 weeks. Most people say 6 weeks, and yesterday was the end of it. Rabbi Ashlag says 8 weeks because it's dealing with all the Mount Sinai uh, revelation, which means Exodus, still Mount Sinai revelation, and in a way he's right because Parashat Terumah, the text of Parashat Terumah, is still part of Mount Sinai revelation. I'll explain it. We go to Parashat Shmot, the beginning of the book of Exodus, and we learn about that the story of the Exodus of the Israelite nation is the story of every human being, the story of coming into a soul, coming into a body, and then the need of that soul to simply overcome the torture and the limitation and the narrowness and the stupidity of the body and the whims of the body. And this journey of independence is being defined by the journey of the Israelites to freedom. So first we have the weeks of Parashat Shmo, and then Bo and Va'era Bo B'Shalach. It's the fight against Egypt, then the Exodus, then the splitting of the Red Sea, starting to create miracles, starting to really create the story. It's not just getting out of your jail, but also revealing the godliness within you, because otherwise you're not really free. You're not free to be who you are supposed to be. Okay, and then Mount Sinai revelation, and Mount Sinai revelation, that was Parashat Yitro. But what was revealed on Mount Sinai, those 10 sayings on the 2 tablets, it's not the end of it. Because then, last parasha, Parashat Mishpatim, is the extension of that same experience in which the Israelites receiving the 10 sayings, but within the 10 sayings, we receive all the network of rules of cause and effect of this universe that basically are there to confirm, to make sure that all human souls are going finally through the rules of this universe. All human souls are going finally to reach completion, godliness, unity, and true enlightenment and freedom. Okay, that was last week's parasha. We read it yesterday, Parashat Mishpatim. But we're still on Mount Sinai. And now we receive on Parashat Terumah, chapter 25 in Exodus, verse 1, וידבר אדוני עם משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחו לי תרומה מאת כל איש אשר ידבנו ליבו תיקחו תרומתי. Speak to the children of Israel, let them take for me a contribution from every person that his heart will let him give. You will take my contribution. Although translating that into English, it's almost impossible. Now, and here comes the story of the rules for the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle or the portable temple the Israelite had in the desert. That Mishkan served them for 40 years in the desert. When they come to the land of Israel, in the beginning it was in Shechem, it moved later on, very shortly after, to Shiloh. It was there in Shiloh almost 400 years, as the way it was built by Moses, except from some changes. That maybe they changed the walls into stone at that time, but the rest of it is exactly as it's being described in Parashat Terumah. From Shiloh, after the Philistines destroyed and burned Shiloh, the Mishkan was smuggled out of Shiloh, and then it came to other places till finally the Mishkan arrives to Jerusalem by King David. His son Shlomo, he hides the Mishkan and builds instead the temple, the first temple, King Solomon's temple, on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So, what is our story in that story? So we have few sides. One side is when we go to Sir Isaac Newton. What's the connection? Isaac Newton had two sets of writings. One was simply physics, just physics. Those writings are in the Newton Museum in England. But there was another set of writings. It was completely spiritual. That set of writings, the Newton Museum did not want it, was very maybe hot coals, charcoals, because he spoke about God, he spoke about the Torah, he spoke about the Zohar, and it said that according to the Zohar and other mystical teachings, all the rules of physics are or can be found in Parashat Terumah, in the building of the tabernacle. So why do we need that information? Do we need that information because we want to create another universe? And that reminds us the all the sayings of the sages more than 2,000 years ago, that if we see the Torah as the blueprint of the whole universe, why do we need to learn the Torah? Do we need to create another universe? We're talking about our sages 2,000 years ago. And the answer is that they give, no, we do not need to rebuild the universe. We need to know the rules of the universe so we can learn how to live with these rules instead of running, building. Okay? So why do we have to study Torah? Because by studying the Torah, we basically train ourselves to connect to the network of the forces, the structures, the laws that this world is working by. And this is very important. So when we read Parashat Terumah, we're not just talking about building the tabernacle, because let's say even tomorrow morning, Mashiach comes to the world and he redeems humanity, everybody is free, and he has, according to the prophecies, he has to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, the temple in Jerusalem. Okay? Would he build it according to Parashat Terumah? The answer is no. Why? It's a small portable temple, and the temple, according to the book of Ezekiel, the Mashiach's temple in Jerusalem will be very, very much bigger, made of stones and gold and so on and so forth. This Mishkan was not built of stones because it was a portable temple. It was made, as it says over here, the next few verses, of 13 different ingredients. Zahav v'kesef u'nechoshesh, verse 3, chapter 25. Gold, silver, and copper, utchelet v'agaman v'tolat shani v'shesh v'izim, and different kinds of textiles that are called tchelet, agaman, tolat, shani, v'shesh v'izim. Orot elim me'odamim, the skins of red deers, and so on, and acacia wood, then the oils, then the incense, all the spices, and the special stones for the ephod and the breastplate. Okay, no stones. Why? Because that was a portable temple, all the Israelites had to follow it in the desert. And when they moved from one place to another, and they moved 42 different locations, each time they had to fold the Mishkan and rebuild it in another place. Stones did not come into consideration over here. You cannot schlep them around in the desert. Okay, so the new temple will be built totally differently. Okay, the same tools, we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant and the menorah, all of them in Parashat Terumah, but the structure itself is going to be different. Now, the question we ask ourselves is how learning Parashat Terumah will help me today to become a better person, to connect better to the light of the universe. How would that help me to create a better life? And from the reading of Parashat Terumah, which is a huge reading, if you look at the Zohar itself, the Zohar Parashat Terumah is this book, the whole book, which is 302 pages, just about Parashat Terumah. Which means we are talking about something of a big magnitude. One of them is the building of a family, marriage, the chuppah, the wedding, the secret of the wedding. Why does that belong to Parashat Terumah? Okay, so in order to ask this question, which means it's not just about what if I'm already married? What if I'm not married and I don't see myself getting married ever? Does Parashat Terumah have a message for me? Of course it does, because it's all about the main topic that is behind the idea of marriage, and that is a topic that you need to have that in every home that you settle in. You need to have it in every place of business you create, because the whole thing about Parashat Terumah is creating superpowers in each one of us, that these forces will give us the ability, they'll give us the ability to instill divinity in everything we do. And let us explain what does that mean. Okay, first of all, the name of the parasha is Terumah, which in general Hebrew, Terumah means a contribution. However, when you read the word, and in Hebrew, every word is structured differently than English, totally different than English. If you an English speaker or any language, other language, and you want to come to study Hebrew, you have to understand that Hebrew is built totally different. It's not built of words, it's built of formulas. And in every formula, in physics you have X, Y, Z, same thing in Hebrew. You have the formula. What is that you want to express? Is it past, present, future? If it's passive, active, passive, active, there are 7 different ways. What do you want to express? Then you take the XYZ, 3 letters that connect to that meaning, and you put it in the formula. The word terumah, the 3 letters shoresh, source of the word are taf, reish, mem. Taf, reish, mem means leharim, or hey, reish, mem, I'm sorry. Hey, reish, mem, these are the 3 letters of the shoresh. Hey, reish, mem in Hebrew means to raise. That's why people say raising donations, raising contributions. It's coming from here. Because the word terumah means to raise the hay. That's what the Zohar says. What does that mean for us? So, if we read the Zohar of Parashat Terumah, we said we're not going to be able to cover the whole Zohar, but from all, we'll try to cover just the main idea. Verse 2 in the Zohar of Parashat Terumah. רבי שמעון פתח, מי זאת הנשקפה כמו שחר, יפה כלבנה, ברה כחמה, איומה כנתגלות. Okay, this is a verse from the Song of Songs, chapter 6. Who is the one that can be seen like dawn, beautiful as the moon, clear as the sun, and so on and so on. This is poetry that's even harder to translate. And the Zohar goes on. מי זאת? Who is that? הוא סוד שני עולמות המתחברים יחד. This is the secret of two worlds joining together. וזהו עולם ועולם. From one world to another world. כלומר שזהו שכתוב מן העולם ועד העולם. Which is a very, very powerful expression that can be found in many places. שהם בינה ומלכות. When we say from one world to another, the Zohar says that's usually referring to Bina and Malchut. What's in common to Bina and Malchut? Bina is the upper world, or what is being called also Olam Haba, the world to come, or in a more precise translation, the world that is coming. And there's Olam Hazeh, this world. Bina is represented by the letter upper Hey in the Tetragrammaton, Yud and Hey, Vav and Hey. The upper Hey is Bina, the lower Hey is Malchut. So when we say, when we speak about two worlds joining to become one, how do we get it? The word me, that simple translation, who. It's a very mixing between English and Hebrew, because me in Hebrew means who, and who means in Hebrew he, and he is she. I don't want you going to it. It's very, as I said, when you come to learn Hebrew, you have to simply open a new drive, because it's something so different. Now, when you say in Hebrew me, which means who is it? Okay? It means to bina. It's the world beyond that cannot be seen. Who? Okay? Also in Hebrew, me, mem yud, is the number 50. Bina is in the 50th gate. Remember, the Israelite nation, they're walking in the desert for 49 days, 7 weeks from the Exodus, coming to Mount Sinai, and they reach the upper world, the revelation, the freedom on the 50th day, Bina. Okay? So that's why the word me means who, but it means also, it hints on the 50th gate. And that says, Su marom enechem uru mi ba'elech. Raise to the heavens your eyes and see who, me, created all of these. Which means, what we're talking about? We're talking about those two worlds. Why do we have two worlds? One world is the world of emet, truth, the complete word. Why is it emet? Why is it complete? Because Bina is the vessel that is in a state of existence of receiving in order to share automatically. Which means we are about rules, right? What is the main rule in our universe? It's called the rule of affinity. And what does it mean, the rule of affinity? That similarities attract. Water can be attracted to similar biological molecules. Okay? Water cannot be attracted to oil, because water and oil are very, very different from each other. Okay? Water does not connect to other stuff also. So similarities attract. And that means that if we want to connect to the upper world, if we want to feel united with the spiritual divine universe, we have to vibrate on that same wavelength. And what is it? The desire to receive for the sake of sharing. That means we have to vibrate on the wavelength of endless. What does it mean, endless? Whatever I receive, I don't take it for myself. I use it in order to pass on the bliss, the enlightenment, the goodness, whatever that is good. Why is that important? Because if we are talking about the upper world as being desired to receive for the sake of sharing, that means the frequency of endless flow. If you want to connect to that frequency, you have to generate that endless flow yourself. And therefore, being selfish is simply, how should I say, it simply doesn't work, because being selfish means being finite, means connecting. Why is it finite? Because everything you receive, you take it in order to live it with you without sharing with anyone else. In that moment, you become totally finite, because you are the end user. You're the end final station of the flow. Whatever I get, no one else get anything out of it. The moment your consciousness is on that wavelength, by the law of affinity, you cannot connect to the network of bliss. So that's called curse. What is a curse? When you connect to the dark network. The dark network means everything I get is only mine, forever will be mine. It doesn't matter if it's going to be forever or not. It means that your mind is about that state of mind, state of thinking. That means you're already in the dark corner. So you have no affinity with the network of bliss in the world. You're disconnected. Disconnected, that's the problem. So when we are disconnected, it means that the letter Hey, all of us, each one of us, is a vessel. In the Tetragrammaton, as we said, there's a Yud, there's a Hey, Vav, and Hey. The upper Hey is the complete harmonious Hey, vessel. It's a corrected vessel. It's a vessel of holiness. The lower Hey is under our control, each one of us, which means it is what you make of it, which means our job and our calling is to embrace that Hey, lower Hey. I desire, I want, I have needs, I have powers, I have thoughts, I have an identity, and transform it into the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. What do we do when we make that transformation? When we transform selfishness into smart altruism, there's a stupid altruism. I'll give everything I have, and then I have nothing, and that's going to be great, because then I'm not the end. Of course you are the end. Who is going to feed you now? You're right now becoming a burden to your loved ones, family, neighbors, community. What are you doing? That's why by Jewish law, you're not allowed to give everything to charity, only 10 to 20%, only the tithing. Beyond that, you have to take care about yourself, so you're not a burden, so you're becoming a contributing citizen in your society. Okay? So, we again transforming the desire to receive into the desire to receive for the sake of sharing is the major calling by the system of Rabbi Ashlag, Bala Sulam. That's the only story. And the moment every human being takes upon himself or herself the obligation to do that by accepting the law of loving others as you love yourself, I want to be happy and want them to be happy the same. And how would that happen? When we share with each other, when we care for each other, not because it's a nice thing, because it's the only way we can survive. And Rabbi Ashlag prophesied, I think it was in the 30s he even wrote about it, that, and mostly in the early 50s, if we do not accept that, because people today and nations are so interdependent with each other, you cannot behave in a selfish way anymore without creating chaos all over the planet that everybody will suffer of it. And if that selfishness will continue, we will destroy the planet. And only then we'll accept the idea that we need to be altruistic. Okay, why can't we awaken to that idea before? Why do we have to destroy the climate, to destroy the environment, to destroy each other, to spend so much money on killing each other? Why are we still doing it? Because selfishness gets you off the line into the dark net, and then you're just becoming a, how it's called, like a black hole. It doesn't matter how much money, attention, power you get, it will get lost and it will never satisfy you. The other way is terumah. What is terumah? Tarom, hay. You raise the hay, you raise your vessel, your desire to receive for the self alone, you raise your selfishness. And how do you raise it? Which tool do you need to raise it? The only tool is altruism. When I accept the idea that I need to love and care for others, why? It's the only way I can fulfill myself. No one is doing me a favor. No, I'm doing a favor to no one. It's the way, it's the most, what's the word? It's the most precise existentialism, because you want to exist in bliss and happiness and fulfillment. That's the only way to do it. But what if other people don't deserve it? None of my business. I'm not God's accountant. What do they deserve? I'm doing that in order to be part of God's network. And what I'm doing, so when I'm lifting myself up, how? By taking my needs, my desires, my thoughts, everything that is in my hemisphere of control, and lifting it up to become one with the upper hay. How do we do it? That's basically the whole Parashat Terumah. And I'll explain step by step what does that mean. What does it mean to raise the lower world, lift it up, and unite it with the upper world? So the Zohar gives all kinds of different examples. Let us start with an example the Zohar is hinting in this parasha about the creation. The creation of the world. There is a legend that before God created the universe, he didn't know which letter is going to be the one that the universe will be created with. Which one is going to be the main pillar. So God interviewed the letters. That's what the legend is saying. And the letters came one by one. The letter Tav came, said, God, let me be the one, the main pillar of the creation. And God said to the letter Tav, Tav means an X, okay, a sign. But you are the last letter of the alphabet. You mean death, the end of the road. We cannot start the journey with you. And there's a whole story about it. Not the time to go into the details. Till the letter Bet comes in front of God. And God says, you are going to be the pillar of the creation because you, Bet, is the letter for Beracha, bliss. Why? Look at the letter Bet. The letter Bet is the first letter of the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, Genesis, starts with Bet of Bereshit. And how do you write the Bet? You write a line in the bottom, that's this world, the lower hay. You write a line at the top, that's the upper world. And you make a little line connecting between the two, the upper and the lower, and Bet is about two who are one, the upper world and the lower world, which is basically, when is there bliss? When the two worlds are connected. Min ha'olam ad ha'olam, from one world to the other world. Now, how would that be connected to our story? And so I'll give another introduction. Here it is, the Israelites are leaving Egypt. They come to Mount Sinai, and on Mount Sinai, God is giving us the tools of how human, mundane, physical life that could be so torturous and dissatisfying, how life like this can become divine. And one of the tools was the 10 utterances or the 10 sayings on the two tablets. Again, two, which means God and his nation, love other as you love yourself. In the month of Gemini, two who are one. And here we have this dichotomy of the creator and the creation, the light and the vessel. If we understand every day, every hour, that that's the name of the game. It's all about uniting, unifying those two realms, not unifying two people. When you unify two people, you unify two interests, but basically you're doing it because when you unify two people, then these two people can be one with the upper world. So, what's the base of all of these? It's the word shalom. Shalom does not mean only peace. Again, the word shalom has a shoresh, like every word in Hebrew. The shoresh for the word shalom is shin lamed mem. Shin lamed mem means complete, a whole, which means shalom means when all sides are complete, all sides become one whole. Only then, when we have that harmony, we have real shalom, real peace. Now, when do we connect to that shalom? It's only when we have peace between the upper world and the lower world, between the physical reality and the spiritual reality. How could that happen? When the physical reality is at one with the upper reality. One of the major manifestations is the day of atonement, Yom Kippur. It's not atonement, atonement. It's Yom Kippurim, explains Rabbi Isaac Luria, the great Kabbalist of the 16th century. Why Kippurim in plural? Because in the word Kippurim you have Mem Yud, remember me? The Mem Yud, and the end of the word Kippurim, okay? That's upper world Bina. You have Kaf Vav, which is Youdkevitch, the connecting agent, and you have Pei Reish Pa, which is the judgments, this physical world. When those two worlds become one in Yom Kippurim, we can simply intertwine ourselves into that oneness and harmony, that what creates the atonement. The atonement creates the atonement. So, should we wait till Yom Kippurim to be able to do it? The whole Torah is about no. Every day, every hour, every incident, we as human beings have the opportunity to instill, inject, impose divinity on every little aspect of action. Well, an example. The Zohar says when the when we are talking about the building of the tabernacle, every person who was involved in the building of the tabernacle, let's say the carpenters, or the women who were weaving the textiles, the fabrics, okay? Everything they did when they took the physical materials, they said, Lichvod HaMishkan. That's for the building of the tabernacle. Lichvod HaParochet. That is for the parochet of the ark. They say the word in order to connect the physical reality, physical matter, into spiritual reality of the upper world. By saying that, you're basically sanctifying. You're taking the physical matter and you turn it into something of a much broader meaning. Why? Because you invite into the physical matter the spiritual upper world. And therefore, you basically anoint every physical action and you create something that is not just gold or silver or copper or wood. You create something that unites the two worlds, and that was what the Mishkan was about. So the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was representing that power that God is giving to his nation on Mount Sinai, that you can take, each one of you can take a physical matter and make it a divine creation. Before that, it was just off the grid, off the network, nothingness, because it was just a physical matter that was meaningless to anyone. Only some people who own the gold, they thought they're rich. Okay, I have a lot of gold, I have a lot of copper, whatever that means, an asset. No, now it's not just gold or copper. Now it is a vessel for divinity. It's a different realm. Now it's part of the grid, part of the network. Now, we don't have the temple right now. It's not, the temple was destroyed, the physical temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, the physical aspect of it, not the spiritual, was destroyed some 2,000 years ago. Okay? And the sages immediately presented to us the idea that from now on, every person is a high priest in his own household. Every person is the high priest because you can take the food, the vegetables, or any kind of food you prepare for Shabbat, and you say, Lichvod Shabbat Kodesh. And that moment, which means in honor of the Holy Shabbat, Lichvod Shabbat Kodesh, at that moment, that physical nothingness, could be a vegetable, could be meat, could be a fish, could be anything, it becomes a vessel for Shabbat, a vessel for the holiness of the Holy Spirit of Shabbat. And when you set the table for Shabbat, the Zohar says, your table, when you say Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh, on the table you set for Shabbat with the white cloth on it, and the candles, and the challah bread on it, you're basically creating a table that is sitting there between the two worlds and connecting them as one. So what is the Torah doing over here? The Torah is empowering each one of us. Yes, you have the divine superpower to take simple nothingness, any kind of materials, and you can make them as vessels of your own built up temple, your own private temple, which you are the high priest of that temple. So you can experience that temple in everything you do. Same thing, somebody, let's say, is building a factory, a store. What about that? That's just making a living. But if you put inside that attitude that I cannot make myself rich and powerful on the physical level by selling products without empowering other people or sharing with other people the divine light of bliss. And if I do that in my store, my factory, my company, that the products I give, that the service I give, it will be connected to the idea of tikkun olam. I'm here to make the world better. God gave me my talents, my opportunities to help other people to have better life. I'm doing it because I'm connecting the upper world and the lower world. So I'm instilling that magic of true bliss into my business, especially if I'm tithing my profits to charity. I'm doing that because I'm doing that exact issue that is called terumah. Terumah, literally contribution. In Hebrew, raising the hay. Tarom, hay. I'm raising that physical, disconnected world, action, physical product, whatever. I'm raising it with my consciousness by sanctifying it and making it part of the journey of humanity, unifying again with the Creator. What does it need? Our will, and as the Zohar says, our heart. The will of the heart to give charity, to share, and to care for others. That is the great idea. How is that manifested? It doesn't matter. If your job is picking up the garbage, if your job is making jewelry, doesn't matter. If you do it with the consciousness that I'm doing it in order to make this world better, more enlightened, so more and more people will feel that connection to the network, the godly network, you're doing the job. So, let's see some other Zohar secrets about it, because it's all Zohar is just speaking about those ideas. And it's not that easy. It's not something that you're born with. One of the rules, you can't learn Parashat Terumah without reading about it. Verse 36 in the Zohar, the Parashat Terumah, בספרי כשפים, in the book of witchcraft, שלימד השמדי מלך השדים לשלמה המלך, that the king of the demons taught King Solomon. King Solomon did not want to learn just the holiness and the wisdom of God. He wanted also to learn all the wisdom of the dark side. You have to know the dark side in order to be able to win against him. So he cheated the king of the demons, took him into captivity, and forced him to teach his secrets to King Solomon. So King Solomon is teaching us, כל מי שרוצה להשתדל להעביר ממנו רוח הטומאה, whoever wants to remove from himself the impure spirit, ולהכניע רוח אחר דסתרעך, and to overwhelm, control, defeat the spirit of the dark side, the evil inclination. How do you do that? מעשהו שרוצה להשתדל בו צריך לקנותו בשכר מלא. You need to understand, you want to achieve something, you have to pay full price. Why? The Zohar says over here, the eternal expression, you want to get it for free you can get only troubles. The full price means you really make the effort, יגעת ומצאת תאמין. You make the full effort till you get the victory. You do not stop in between, in the middle, and saying, I tried enough, there's no more. No, you have to make the full effort with that certainty that the effort will be rewarded. Because the dark side is trying to tell us that you can achieve things for nothing, for free. You can steal, you can cheat. Okay, so, and that means that the biggest goal we have, which is uniting the upper world and the lower world together, that's the story. So, we have two examples to what we just said. One example is in a Hasidic prayer books, before the prayer of Friday night prayer, which means the first prayer of Shabbat, the Hasidic prayer book has this part from the Zohar, from this parasha. It is, you can find in verse 163 in the Zohar Parashat Terumah, Hasulam, and it starts, כגבנה דהינון מתייחדין לאלה באחד. The same way that they are uniting into one above, okay? למווה אימון לאלה אחד לקבל חוד, קודשה בריחו אחד לאלה. And what does it mean? What makes Shabbat a special day? That on Shabbat, as Shabbat enters, the lower hay is being raised up till it unites with the upper hay. Okay? And when they unite in the secret of one, in which the divine spiritual world is getting united with the physical world, with the world of existence of the souls, and then the holy throne is being sanctified, being unified with the secret of one. That's what Shabbat is about. The moment there is that kind of unification, all dark forces must separate and leave, because they cannot exist in the presence of this kind of a unity. So, what does it mean in Shabbat? Shabbat is a creation of itself. That's why Shabbat was created after the 6 days have been completed. Now Shabbat is a creation of Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shalom between the upper world and the lower world. In Shabbat, our vessels, our souls, our desires, if we want, we go on that elevator called Shabbat, and we get to be united with the upper world. And therefore, if you want to stay in Shabbat, you do not want to inject any chaotic situations, thoughts, emotions, and actions, because Shabbat is oneness and harmony, so we can remember where we came from and where we're heading to. And therefore on Shabbat we don't need to work. Our work on Shabbat is to tune into that oneness of the two worlds, the upper world and the lower world. Terumah, Shabbat is raising itself, us. If you stay in that state of mind, you experience that oneness of the upper world and the lower world, and therefore you can experience that magic, that you can take something so benign, so mundane, and make it a magical thing, like a tablecloth, like a table, like a candle. They're not just objects, they become shining objects because you made them shine, because you connected them to that world of shalom, unity between the upper and the lower. Where can we else find that? Oh, we spoke about it in the beginning, in weddings. The wedding. So we go to verse 788 in Parashat Sulam. And he speaks over there, there's a story about the wedding that the sages came to celebrate. And there was a beautiful wedding, and then they sat to eat. And the groom opened his word and said, ועשית את הקרשים למשכן עצי שיטים עומדים. He's quoting from Parashat Terumah. And you make the wood for the Mishkan, standing acacia wood. Because they were like the walls of the Mishkan. But it says in the book of Isaiah chapter 6, seraphim, standing seraphim. Seraphim is one kind of angels, fire angels, standing seraphim. משם שרפים הפקרשים שבכאן הם סוד השרפים. The woods are like these fire angels. What's the connection to the wedding? Because how do you make a wedding? You create a chuppah. And for the chuppah you take 4 krashim, 4 pieces of wood, 4 pillars, to hold the canopy, to hold the chuppah, which is the cloth that covers, and that's what you need, says the Zohar, in order to create a Mishkan. 4 pillars, 1 cloth, and you have a Mishkan. When does it become a Mishkan? When the bride walks underneath it, she becomes the vehicle, the vessel for the Shekhinah that descends over the chuppah and the bride and the groom. So if you want, says the Zohar, basically to experience how did it feel in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, how did it feel in Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, just go and stand under the chuppah while the wedding is taking place. That is when the people that are celebrating, they have that connection, that consciousness, realizing that when you make a chuppah, unite the chatan and the kala, the bride and the groom. By uniting them together, you create a unification between the upper world and the lower world. And that's why the blessings under the chuppah, the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings, speak a lot about Binyan Adayad, about ever-standing temple. That the Chatan and Kala, they are becoming, the bride and the groom, they are becoming again, it's a union. It's a union, it's a shalom. They become complete. They're not complete before the wedding, now the wedding completes them. Because a male is half a soul and a female is half a soul. Only when they come together, they became one complete soul. And that union unites together the upper world and the lower world during the chuppah. And that is basically the secret of a real, true married life. If you get married because you don't want to be lonely, you get married, why? Because 2 people, it's easier to pay the mortgage. You get married because of all kinds of other reasons most people have. Good luck, but that's not going to work. somehow it's never going to fulfill you. But if the purpose of the wedding is because the couple want to create a temple, they want to create a home that connects the upper world and the lower world to be one. They want to be a shining light to the world. That is the consciousness that will give them the ability to overcome all the obstacles, all the challenges. Two strangers move into one place, one bed, one, one household. They're becoming one economical unit, one family. They have to raise kids. They have to act as one unit. This is impossible if you think about it logically, because two people are so different from each other. And especially that, women are from Venus and men are from Mars. It's like they're coming from two different worlds. They think so differently from each other. If you do not have that spiritual consciousness that we are completing each other, because by completing each other we complete the upper world and the lower world, that we're getting united in order to become a vehicle for that union, that every time we come together as husband and wife, in every connection, it's about connecting the upper world and the lower world. When this thought is happening, when this thought is being injected in a business, everywhere, as we spoke about, then you will connect to bliss and your mission will be accomplished. What does it mean, accomplishment? What does it mean, success? Fulfillment, happiness, feeling of bliss. It doesn't matter how much money you have. As long as you're selfish, it will never satisfy you. How many people I met, they were billionaires, never happy. It was never enough. Why? Because having just the lower world, having the hay only, you're offline. You are in the darknet. Doesn't matter how much light you pour into the darknet, it will stay dark. Only when you do terumah, you raise the hay to unite with the upper hay, and you inject the divine spiritual consciousness into it, then you create a fulfillment. Then you create the ability to achieve satiation, true bliss, and true success. Thank you so much, and have a great, successful week.